Hey guys, so you know how I responded to that video of Jake Edwards coming out as non-binary because he likes pink? Well, today I learned why he came out as non-binary. It's because Ash Hurdell brainwashed him. And I should have known that. So, let's get into the video.
Hello guys, today I'm here with Ash and Jake, and to be honest, I don't know a lot outside of transgender things, and these two seem like the two perfect people to teach me, so should we begin?
Yes, we shall begin.
Yes, we shall begin.
Okay, that seemed rather creepy. Anyway, so to give some context, Alex is Jake's boyfriend, and apparently Jake knows a little more about things outside of transgender topics. I'm glad that they're not calling non-binary transgender at least, but they're acting like it's something that's just as valid as being transgender, which concerns me. But yeah, we're gonna watch the brainwashing process right here.
So first off, do you have any just like general questions?
I feel like I just want to start completely from scratch, because everything that I've learned has kind of just got muddled.
Okay.
Tumblr's not a great source of information if you're just picking it up in pieces, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. So obviously, well, I'm assuming you have an understanding of what non-binary is, correct?
Yeah, at a base level.
Okay.
This is just me calling myself out on my ignorance here.
And that's
I want
great.
to be better.
It's definitely really important to acknowledge, like, hey, I could, like, benefit from some more education and information.
Oh, it's so great that he admits he doesn't know what non-binary is, because somehow he's supposed to know what non-binary is. Just, like, honestly, this is scaring me right here. What is going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, non-binary.
Just give it your best go.
I don't want to offend anybody.
See, this is like the reason behind all of this. Nobody wants to offend anybody anymore, so they have to tiptoe around everything and not say what they really think. And it's such a shame, because why can't you just say what you really think?
Is that where like people identify outside of the binary?
That's
Yes?
perfect.
Good.
Yeah, beautiful. Ding, 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 beautiful. And then
That was scary.
what's gender queer?
I think even I would struggle to define that.
So even the people who make up these kind of terms don't even know what they mean. See, this is the reason why I'm so skeptical about these non-binary terms. Because even the people who use them and who define them don't know what they mean. Like, why are these terms so incredibly vague?
Just like black and white
It's not
definition.
So genderqueer and non-binary are really, really similar. They're both ambiguous umbrella terms for people that don't exist exclusively on one of the binary ends, and solely on one of the binary ends. The difference between them is really complicated and nuanced and mostly personal. So like, genderqueer is an older term, so sometimes older generations kind of identify with it. Non-binary tends to be more contemporary, more of like a today youth term. And as silly as it sounds, like that's one of the biggest differences.
So one of the terms is used by older people and one of the terms is used by younger people? Okay. Male and female are used by older and younger generations. There's no generational gap there. Those mean the same thing, no matter who says anything about those. Here's the thing. Terms like genderqueer, non-binary, or agender, or whatever, those terms mean different things when you ask from person to person. Male and female, no matter the age of the person you ask, or what ideology the person believes in. Those mean the same thing. This is why I don't think non-binary is as valid as being trans. It's not as valid as being a guy or a girl. You see how it's not the same thing? Why do these people have to make it so vague?
I know, right? So it's like, why do we have these two words then?
Is one more like fluid than the other, or like?
Some people feel that way. It's totally personal.
So the definition of the word means different things from person to person. That's not how words work. I'm sorry. It's not like, oh, okay, you want to ask somebody what the word gay means, and you go up to somebody and it's like, oh, well, being gay means to mean that I'm only attracted to the same sex. But when you ask another person, it means that they're only attracted to the opposite sex. That's not how it works. These people are just so insane.
Some people feel like non-binary is kind of like as they identify as non-binary is kind of like a set non-binary gender. It's like, I'm non-binary, agender. This is where I sit on the spectrum. Genderqueer is kind of like, can like bounce around a little bit. Genderqueer also is more ambiguous. Maybe that person is still questioning and they don't really know. So they just say genderqueer.
Okay, well, if somebody is questioning their gender, why would they put a label on it? I don't get it.
I always thought that the difference between non-binary and genderqueer was that genderqueer was a label that fit under non-binary, and genderqueer was like a specific label like agender, so genderqueer was somebody that identifies as
Sure.
wibbly wobbly gender thing.
A lot of people think that, and here, let me see, just a second.
Its own book.
I need to get your book.
Oh, of course, he needs to get a book so he can get brainwashed even more.
So it's complicated because different people feel different things. Some people, it's like these things are all subjective and personal, and there is no actual right answer or history for these terms.
Then why are they terms to begin with if it's all subjective? Why should these even be terms in the first place? Words can't just mean whatever you want based on your feelings. That's... oh my god. If the words of male and female can't change based on your feelings, then why should all these crazy other terms change based on your feelings? I mean, that's some newspeak level language manipulation right there. You can't just do that with the English language, or any language for that matter.
So is like non-binary the larger umbrella term and genderqueer is inside of it, or is genderqueer just as much of an expansive term? I think like genderqueer, because it's older, used to just be this huge umbrella term, and then as like non-binary became more popular.
As non-binary became more popular, you mean as more kids decided to adopt that label in order to look cool?
Non-binary kind of took over that, and genderqueer kind of became a subcategory, or like an identity within it.
That's how I understood it.
Yeah, but really both are true. And it just depends on how the person identifying with it feels.
So, let me get this straight. It's either a big, large, all-encompassing term, or it's a very specific term to describe some very specific identity, which you haven't even defined. And both of them are true at the same time, based on how the person feels. So they're two things that contradict each other, based on how the person feels. What you say, what you say, what you say, what? My brain is hurting right now.
I have a
And I
question.
know that's so confusing, yeah.
Can you be non-binary and something else?
Yeah, totally.
So you can be non-binary and something else. Is that implying that you can be non-binary and male or female? You can be non-binary and a binary? Is this Riley Dennis logic right here?
Explain to me how that works.
Well, it's
Example?
like, the example is, you identify as transgender,
Mhm.
but you're a trans man, you're FTM.
Oh!
Yeah.
So somebody could be non-binary, but they identify as bigender.
What's that?
Bigender is where you identify as two separate genders, maybe at the same time, maybe fluctuating, and that can be male and female, it could be female and something else, it could be two other genders.
What? His analogy makes no sense. You identify as trans, you identify as a trans man, so somebody can identify as bigender. What? Okay, let's break that down. Look, the whole bigender thing, I have a really hard time believing. How can you be male and female at the same time? It makes no sense. Those are two literally opposite things. Like, how can you want to be both sexes at the same time? Those are two different sexes. There's nothing else I can say. Those are two different sexes. So you want to have both a penis and a vagina at the same time. How does that even work? So you want to be Chase Ross, basically. Sorry, I had to make that joke. And then he also said two separate genders. two separate genders. Like, there are two distinct genders that are not male or female, that have no relation to male or female. See, the thing with a lot of these non-binary genders is that they still either use the genders of male or female, but he's saying that there are two genders completely separate from male or female that have nothing to do with male or female. What would those genders even be? I don't get it.
Nice.
That was a perfect explanation. And then there's also, like...
I felt so much pressure explaining that whilst looking at you.
Oh, he's feeling the pressure from Ash right there. Oh, yeah, these people are totally being pressured into it. It's just such a shame.
I was like waiting for the no.
No, that was totally perfect. And I am absolutely like not the authority. I feel like sometimes because I like put out a book with these things, I'm like viewed as an authority. I'm so not. I'm like still learning and figuring things out. And like there's parts of my book I wish I could go back and like erase a little and alter, and that's just how it is. And then, so Jake just talked a little bit about bigender, but there's also like trigender, which I'm assuming you can infer means like you feel three genders. You feel a connection to three genders.
This is just so painful to watch. This is just so painful to watch. Feeling three genders at the same time, how does that even work? What would the three genders even be? That makes absolutely no sense. Someone shoot me, please.
And then there's gender fluid, which is kind of like, doesn't have rules on how many numbers of genders you feel a connection with.
Nice.
I just love the faces that Alex is making through the entirety of this video. I have a feeling that he doesn't believe any of this nonsense. I mean, you can just tell that he's just very incredulous of all this. I really hope that he doesn't believe any of this.
And it's like a lot of people can identify as, or have like the exact same feelings, but use the different terms. So somebody could be bigender and somebody else could be gender fluid, and they feel exactly the same about their gender, but they just use the different labels because they have a preference.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I wish there was like, you know, when you make a character in, say, World of Warcraft, I wish there was like a big character creation screen where people knew all about these terms before they committed to one, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like, I wish when we hit puberty, you could give somebody a book and be like, here are your options.
Uh-huh.
Good luck.
Okay, let's break that down. Okay, so first of all, Jake says that people can identify the same way, or they can feel the same way, but they want to identify a different way. How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? Why would they do that? Why are the terms so incredibly vague? How does that benefit anything at all? That just makes everything so confusing. And then Alex says, oh, you know, I wish it was more clear-cut, which I wish it was too. He says, I wish that we could just give everybody at puberty a book that they could pick their identities from. That would basically be indoctrinating everybody into these identities that have no evidence behind them. But I think what he's really implying, what Ash is implying, and what Jake is implying, what they're all implying, is that you can choose your gender. And that is the thing that really gets under my skin. You do not choose your gender. You don't. They're acting like, oh, you just slap on a label and that's your gender. No, you don't choose it. You are born that way. Either you are 99.7% of the time, you are born into a certain body and you're perfectly fine with that body and that's your gender. Or you're born transgender and you want to transition to the opposite sex, and that's your gender. And either of those cases, you are born a certain way. You don't just hang out around a Tumblr and slap on a certain label and that's your gender. So stop making the struggle of transgender people look like it's a choice.
You can buy my book. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, but that would be definitely cool if there were like more education and you felt like all these things were real, legitimate, valid options. Not only you could pick, but society would like jam with too.
You mean society would be okay with indoctrinating kids, acting like all of these identities were real and telling kids to pick from all this stuff? No, that would be horrible. That would just be indoctrination, because there's no evidence for any of these identities. It's an ideology. It's not a scientifically validated concept.
I wonder how many, like, transgender people transition and then think, oh shit.
It's, to my understanding, it's not often, but it does happen.
I wouldn't say I feel like, oh shit, but I kind of feel like that in a sense that, like, transitioning from a binary gender to a binary gender, I think there was a point when I got more comfortable with my identity and got more aware of other identities. I was like, I wish I knew to explore these options before, because I feel like I do feel a deep connection to a few different labels, but I think I'm just so committed in my label that if I'd have known about these before, there's a chance I probably would have identified as non-binary.
Yeah.
Than as
I was
binary.
actually going to ask you, because the way you've talked about non-binary things and your gender expression and your feels, to me it kind of felt like you felt some kind of a connection to, like, some kind of non-binary gender, but, like, on the other hand, I also knew that you were totally a trans guy.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to learn.
So it's been a long experimental journey.
Okay, so a few things there. First, this was made before Jake came out as non-binary because he likes pink. So he's saying that he feels a connection to some non-binary labels. Again, what is this feeling a connection thing? I don't get it. It's so vague. It's so incredibly vague. There's no actual description for what this actually means. Second of all, he's claiming that he wished that he knew about all these made-up labels so that when he transitioned, he could have known about them so that he would have identified as non-binary instead of identifying as trans, which really concerns me. Because though it seems like he really is a trans guy and he really did transition, the fact that he's saying that he wishes that he would have identified as non-binary instead of transitioning does concern me, because that almost sounds like he's saying he didn't want to transition, which maybe he's just being forced into saying that because, again, like he's feeling like he can't express himself as a guy. But I don't know, it seems weird that he's saying that. And then look how Ash is encouraging him into it. He's like, oh yeah, I know the way you were talking about non-binary. I knew you were non-binary this whole time. Good on you, Jake, good on you. So she's obviously encouraging him into identifying as non-binary. Obviously, this whole thing was like a brainwashing exercise. And then finally, look at Alex. He's clearly not believing any of this. It's just so hilarious to watch how skeptical he is of all this. I'm glad he's not believing this. You can just tell from his facial expressions. I really hope that he'll get out of this cult.
I'll probably always be changing and learning and figuring out things too.
Oh, of course, Ash, you will always be changing, because everybody knows you just always randomly switch around. That's how the sex of your brain works. That's how gender works. Yep, everybody knows that's how that works. It's not like, transgender people are born that way. Cisgender people are born that way. Everybody is born with their gender.
You've got it easy. You're like, I'm a trans guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just a guy.
You heard it here first. Being a trans man is easy, everybody.
Ash Hardell.
Exposed.
No. Do you know what demigender is?
Nope. Explain.
Cool. So, demi is a prefix that you can put essentially in front of any gender. Demi-girl, demi-guy, you could even be like demi-agender. Demi-agender.
Oh, I'm cringing so hard. Demigender. Demigender. I'm stealing this from one of my commenters, but somebody made a joke about a Demi Lovato boy. A Demi Lovato gender. Which is honestly just every bit as ridiculous as what these guys are talking about. But these idiots... Well, Alex isn't being quite as idiotic. You can tell he doesn't believe in this stuff and he's just playing along. Demi-agent. Oh, kill me. Please kill me.
And it means that you have somewhat of a connection to that gender. I'll tell you a story once. This is how, because I feel a connection to the identifier demigirl. One time, and I put this in my book, one time I was getting ready at a party and I was with a bunch of my gals and we were like getting gussied up and they were putting on makeup and curling their hair and everything, and I filled out of the loop because I was putting on a tie and like all of these things, and then we come upstairs from the basement and like show off our final looks, and then it's terrifying. I hated being in college and doing that, and then people were like, Ashley, like you can't wear that, you're a girl. And then somebody said, oh, Ashley can wear whatever she wants, she's not really a girl. And then my initial gut reaction was to be like, fuck you, I'm a girl. Like, don't say that about me. I feel a connection to, like, womanhood. And then somebody else came back and said, don't say that about Ashley. She totally is a girl. Don't be rude. But then my reaction to that internally was, I'm not a girl. Be quiet. And then, so it was like this confusing, like, mixture of feels.
Did
like,
you actually say anything?
I think I sat there and just been like,
Fair enough.
So basically, you didn't know which side to side on when people were arguing about you, and that somehow proves that you're somehow not a girl and a girl at the same time. It's like Schrodinger's gender. Like, these people, they literally, like, have Schrodinger's cat gender identities. Like, they're so contradictory. How can you be a girl and not a girl at the same time? Or partially a girl and partially not a girl?
yeah, because I'm not confrontational. But yeah, so it's just feeling like a partial connection to a gender.
Can you stop using this bad word connection to gender? You either are a gender or you aren't. There's no such thing as connection to gender. That makes no sense. That has no meaning.
Agender.
No gender?
It can be. There's like two common definitions for agender.
Of course, there's two different definitions. And there's no one solid set definition. It's always the most vague label possible. There's no set definition. This is why I'm so skeptical about all these non-binary labels. They're so incredibly vague. Can you just pick one definition and settle on it? And stop making about, oh, I feel a certain way, therefore we have to make this definition as vague as possible.
One is like without gender and another is gender neutral.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This is so nice.
I'm glad someone's made me aware of that little difference, that there are two different types of agender, because I always just thought agender
Without gender? Yeah, some people feel gender neutral, but they still cling to the identifier agender.
How can you feel gender neutral or without gender, and those are two distinct states? What? And why is Alex hugging Ash? He seemed all skeptical about this before. Has he officially been brainwashed?
Have you ever heard of FTM? That's a joke.
Okay, I get that was a joke, but stop lumping being transgender in with all these nonsense Tumblr labels. Thank you very much.
Here's an interesting one. Have you ever heard of maxi gender? Yeah. Have you ever heard of pangender?
Oh, never. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some advice for you. Never go full Tumblr. Never go full Tumblr. This is the result. Never go full Tumblr. This is what happens. You get words like maxi gender and pangender. What is maxi gender anyway? Do you identify as a menstrual pad?
I've heard of pangender because I'm pansexual.
Right.
So.
That makes me think I should know what this is, and I don't.
Pangender is similar to pansexual, and like you feel all the gender.
You feel all the genders? How does that work? You feel all the genders at once? What? How does that even make any sense? How is that possible? Especially since some of them contradict each other. Like you said, like agenders, you feel no gender. And bigenders, you feel both genders. So how do you feel them at the same time? That makes absolutely no sense.
But some people feel that that's problematic because how can you feel a connection to a gender that... Because some genders like are really strongly associated with cultures, for example, two-spirit.
Yeah.
So how can you feel a connection to a gender that is connected to a culture you don't belong to?
Oh, of course, the SJWs have to get butthurt about their own terms. There always has to be infighting. They always have to get angry at each other. Because, oh, my cultural appropriation about my own Tumblr terms. It's just so funny to watch them fight each other.
So they think that's problematic. So then maxi gender came along, and it says you feel a connection to the maximum amount of genders that is appropriate for you to do so.
So you feel a connection to as many genders as I dictate that you can feel a connection to. Brilliant! Just brilliant. I love how watching these people police themselves. Oh, this is just so hilarious to watch. And look at Alex's face. He is just dead inside. I'm glad that he doesn't believe in this. Oh, that face is priceless.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, couldn't pangender just mean that they have the ability to connect with all the genders within their
Right.
sort of...
Yeah. That they
Circle,
can.
yeah.
And that's what maxi gender is. I think it would be awesome, but potentially overwhelming to feel a connection to every single gender I possibly could.
Do you experience dysphoria like that though? Wouldn't that be that just horrible?
I don't know. I have no idea because I don't feel that way, but I imagine you could, you know?
Alex is like sweating at this point because he can't do the mental gymnastics required to make up stuff like this. He's honestly trying to make sense of this and he can't, which I really applaud him for not believing in this stuff. Good on you, Alex. Honestly, good on you for not believing this nonsense. Because you can tell he's trying to play along with him, he's trying to believe it, but he doesn't. He obviously doesn't. You can just tell by the facial expressions he's been making throughout the entire video. He knows this is bullshit. He clearly does. So good on you, Alex. So he's like, wouldn't you experience this for you? Isn't this kind of weird? And Ash is like, I don't know. I don't experience that. But maybe, yeah. It's just so hilarious to watch. This is so funny.
I imagine like the sense of dysphoria would come from being seen as like a binary gender,
Yeah.
or just being people identifying you as one gender when you're like, actually no, I'm all.
There's one gender that I think is particularly interesting. It's called Maverick. Have you ever heard of it? It's like, so you know the binary genders, man and woman, right? Maverick's like a third one. It's another gender that isn't derived from man and woman whatsoever. It's not a mixture. It's not somewhere in the middle. It has nothing to do with man or woman. It's just another gender.
Oh, this is the kind of stuff that just, stop doing this to me, Ash. This is torture. You know how, and I don't actually condone this stuff. I'm completely being facetious. I'm joking. You know how Trump was saying stuff like, bring back torture, even if it doesn't work. That was a horrible Trump impression, by the way. But pretend that was good. You know, he might benefit from bringing these videos in his office, because I think he could get some information if he just made people watch these videos. Because I would confess everything if I had to watch these videos long enough. This is the perfect sort of torture. What she's saying makes literally no sense. There is no third biological sex. Yes, intersex people exist, but that is not a third biological sex. Those are still either derived from the two sexes. Therefore, there cannot be a third gender. If there's no third sex, there is no third gender. That is how it works. I am sorry, Ash.
Somebody said, in my book, they wrote a little bloop that I thought was interesting. If genders were color, and man was red and woman was blue, Maverick's gender would be yellow, a primary color that is no way derived from any other color. So it's just not man, not woman, not a gender. It's still a gendered feeling. But, yeah.
How? What? It doesn't matter how people feel. I don't care how people feel. That has nothing to do with anything.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for someone that's never heard of that before and there's no like strict definition of what that means, it's like trying to say that there's another colour out there.
Yes.
And you can't see it.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
Yes.
trying to
figure out
imagine
what it's like.
Trying to imagine something you literally can't see and you can't feel yourself is
That's a perfect
impossible.
understanding of it. It is. It's like another gender that you haven't experienced, so you don't know what it's like.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like really, really cool.
Uh-huh.
You guys are blowing my mind.
Good.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I wouldn't trust anybody else to do this for you two.
And it's entirely possible that I have misspoke or made a mistake in some of these explanations. And if so, please kindly point it out in the comments. So I can give it a big thumbs up and also do some learning, and everybody else can have the most accurate information down in the comments below. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yay!
Bye.
Okay. So that was a little insane. Oh my god. That was crazy. So to conclude, Ash completely brainwashed Jake. Luckily, Alex came out relatively unscathed. He played along, but clearly, based on his facial expressions, he was kind of signaling for help, and he clearly didn't believe all she was telling him. So that's good on you, Alex. But it's funny also how Ash wanted to be corrected. She said, if I got anything wrong, just write in the comments. So she basically, her whole ideology is completely predicated on how her audience feels. That's all that matters. How her audience feels. Nothing else. If her audience starts whining, oh, but I feel a different way, she'll completely change her outlook on things. So, yeah, now I understand how Jake got brainwashed. Hopefully Alex didn't get that brainwashed. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.
Well, feel the funk.